Today, I'm going to discuss the Roth IRA 5-year rule or rules because of the continuing confusion I see out there, not only with other investors, but also other professionals in the financial field and, of course, in the news. And honestly, the rules are confusing. I did make a video on this a couple of years ago, but it's certainly worth revisiting because, of course, the numbers have changed and the tax laws have changed, and this topic is still extremely relevant for those using Roth IRAs to mitigate their lifetime tax liabilities. Hey everybody, Tim here, and today I'm going to go back to the basics on the Roth IRA 5-year rule, or actually rules, plural, because as I mentioned, there are two distinct 5-year rules, and confusing them is where most of the problems begin. There is a 5-year contribution rule, and there is a 5-year conversion rule. Now, you have to remember that a Roth contribution and a Roth conversion are totally separate transactions. Not knowing this often leads to a good deal of confusion. A Roth contribution has income limits and annual dollar caps. For 2026, the Roth IRA contribution limit is $7,500 for those under 50 and $8,600 for those 50 and older. And of course, you have to be under a certain income threshold to contribute directly. The income phase out for Roth IRA contribution is between $153,000 and $168,000 for single filers and head of household. And for married couples filing jointly, the phase-out range is between $242,000 and $252,000. Now, a Roth IRA conversion, on the other hand, is available to anyone at any age with no dollar limits. But you can only convert money from a pre-tax retirement account, like a traditional Roth IRA, into a Roth IRA. And of course, you will have to pay ordinary income taxes on the converted amount in the year of the conversion. But there is no income cap and no size limit. However, you will rarely want to convert the entire amount at once because you will probably have a very large tax bill if you have any sizable amount in your tax-deferred assets. You're probably going to want to convert smaller amounts over the course of multiple years while filling up the lower tax brackets. Now, before we get into the rules, let's think about the why, because when we understand the reason behind the rules, it tends to make a lot more sense. So, keeping the why in mind, let's go over rule number 1, the 5-year contribution rule. I also call it the 5-year forever rule to help clarify. Now, to have a tax-free qualified distribution from a Roth IRA, you must satisfy 2 requirements. First, the distribution must occur after one of the following. You turn 59 and a half, that was the most common, or the original Roth IRA owner passes away and the money is withdrawn by the beneficiaries, or you become totally disabled. Or, of course, there is one last one, that you use the money for qualified first-time home buyer expenses up to $10,000 limit. Not real high, right? And the second requirement, the distribution must meet the Roth contribution 5-year waiting period. And here's a key thing to know. This 5-year clock applies to all of your Roth IRAs collectively, not each one individually, and it starts on January 1st of the year of your very first Roth IRA contribution or conversion. So, essentially, the first time any funds hit a Roth IRA account, your clock starts and it never resets. Even if you close all of your Roth accounts and open a new one 10 years later or 20 years later, that original start date is locked in forever. That's why I call this the 5-year forever rule. Once the clock starts, it never starts over. And this is also very important. You cannot have a qualified Roth IRA unless the 5-year contribution rule has been met. So remember that. And here's another planning tip. You can contribute to a Roth IRA for a given tax year up until the filing deadline. So since the 5-year rule starts the clock on January 1st of the tax year of your first contribution, this can help you meet the aging requirement sooner. For example, if you contribute to a Roth IRA in April before the 15th, or tax day, of 2026, but you designate it for 2025, then you can meet the 5-year rule and a bit under 4 years, since, of course, the April 2026 contribution actually counts as starting on January 1st of 2025. Another important item to note is that you can always withdraw your original contributions from a Roth IRA without restriction or penalty at any time and at any age. No, I just said contribution, not conversion, which again have different rules. But with a contribution, you've already paid taxes on those dollars. So if you put in $7,500 today and you want it back tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, that original contribution is yours. No questions asked. The 5-year rule applies to the earnings or growth or gains or whatever you want to call it on those contributions. Now, on to rule number 2, the 5-year conversion rule. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more nuanced, but if you can answer yes to the following 2 questions, then your Roth IRA is qualified and you have access to all of your money tax and penalty free. First question, has your Roth IRA been open and funded for at least 5 years? Second question, are you 59 and a half or older? Again, if you say yes to both of those questions, you are free and clear. You can withdraw contributions, converted amounts, and or earnings with 0 taxes and 0 penalties. Congratulations, your Roth is fully qualified. But what if you're over 59 and a half and you're just now opening your first Roth? Well, let's say that you do a $100,000 Roth conversion this year, and this is the first money that you've ever put into a Roth IRA. Well, you can withdraw that $100,000 converted at any time because you already paid taxes on it and you are over 59 and a half. But you're going to have to wait at least 5 years from the year of the conversion to withdraw any of the growth or gains tax-free. So if that $100,000 conversion grows to $150,000, the $50,000 in earnings stays locked behind the 5-year clock. There will be no penalty if you take it early since you're over 59 and a half, but you will owe taxes on the earnings until that 5-year clock is up. Now, what about someone under 59 and a half? Well, this is where each conversion gets its own individual 5-year clock. So let's say that you are 40 and your Roth IRA has been open more than 5 years, but you do a $100,000 Roth conversion today. Well, if you withdrew that $100,000 3 years later at age 43, you will have to pay a 10% penalty on all of those pre-tax assets that were converted, not just the earnings, as well as income taxes on the earnings, because you didn't wait 5 years from the year of that conversion to avoid the penalty and you are under 59 and a half. And each Roth conversion is going to have its own 5-year holding period, which starts on January 1st of the year in which the conversion occurs. So if you convert again the next year, the new conversion is going to start its own 5-year clock. Now, here's the scenario that trips people up the most. Let's say that you're 57. You've had a Roth IRA for over 5 years, and you do a $100,000 conversion. 3 years later, at age 60, that conversion has grown to $150,000. Can you cash out all of it? Yes, you can, and all of it will be tax and penalty free. Remember, for clients over 59 and a half, only the earnings rule matters, because once you hit 59 and a half, the 5-year conversion penalty rule no longer applies. So remember that once you're over 59 and a half, you don't have to worry about penalties anymore. The only remaining question is whether the Roth IRA contribution 5-year rule has been satisfied, or the 5-year forever rule. And in this case, it has. So why does the conversion rule exist? Again, if you think about why the rule exists in the first place, it makes more sense. Without this rule, there would be a conversion loophole. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at this. If you are 40 with $100,000 in a traditional IRA and you need that money, you could hypothetically convert your $100,000 to a Roth and pay taxes, but without the 5-year conversion rule, you would face no 10% penalty and you could have immediate access to that converted money. But with this rule, you have ordinary income taxes plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty, if you withdraw converted amounts before the 5-year period ends and if you are under 59.5. Now, this rule is only about the penalty, not about the income tax. You already paid income tax on the conversion in the year that you converted it. The IRS created this rule to close the loophole of accessing converted funds penalty-free immediately if you're under 59.5. Yes, you can convert and access the money at age 45 instead of course, waiting until 59.5, but you still have to pay the taxes up front and then wait 5 years before avoiding the penalty. And this only applies to the principal amount converted, not the earnings or the gains, which of course you would still have to pay taxes and penalties on. Now, a couple of important updates worth noting since my last video on this topic. Tax rates are still historically low and favorable and now permanent. Well, at least until Congress changes the tax code again, because as you may have noticed, our tax code is written in pencil. And of course, subject to change, which happens quite often, I might add. But in my earlier video, I mentioned that tax rates were historically low and highlighted the urgency around planning because at that time, the TCJA was going to sunset. But now that urgency is still very prevalent because rates are as low as they've been in 100 years. And I think everybody probably knows what's going on with our debt and deficits. They are not shrinking. The One Big Beautiful Bill signed in 2025 permanently extended the TCJA tax rate structure. So our current ordinary income tax brackets, which go from 10% to 37%, are no longer scheduled to sunset. So the convert before rates goes up narrative has evolved since, of course, the rates are locked in, but that does not mean conversions aren't still very smart. It just means the analysis is now more about your specific tax situation over time, your future RMDs, your estate, your beneficiaries, and your marginal rates in retirement. Also, I'd like to note that backdoor Roths are still permitted. The new tax law did not restrict non-deductible contributions followed by conversions. So that's good too. So what's the bottom line? Well, I am still a huge fan of Roth conversions and Roth IRAs in general. The tax-free compounding, the no RMD benefit during your lifetime, and the legacy advantages for your heirs make them a great tool. And as I said a couple of years ago, if you think that retirement tax planning and Roth conversions are in your future, and they should be, open and fund a Roth IRA as soon as possible, even if it's just a small amount. Open a Roth IRA, even if it's with $100 or whatever, as soon as possible to start that 5-year forever rule. The sooner it starts, the sooner it's done forever. And if you would like to ensure that you're not going to get hosed in taxes in retirement, check out our website, erwealth.com, and book an intro call to see how we might help. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.